Hey everybody, I'm Katie. I'm the director of programming here at Wicked Queer, and welcome to our Q&A with the lovely ladies with Walk for Me, the movie that I was just talking about, and I've watched multiple times. I'm really excited to have all you guys here. I love, not that I'm being biased, to have a panel of women, particularly having a woman director and producer and songwriter. I think is really, really cool. So if you guys just want to start, I'd love just to go around and talk about what you did on the film. Isabel, we could start with you.
Hello. So I wrote and directed and edited Walk with Me. Do you want me to expand a little? Or?
That in itself is a feat, because I'm also a filmmaker, and I feel like writing and directing is enough, and then editing a feature film, that's a whole other beast. How did you separate, being so close to it and then having like an objective mind when editing?
Yeah, ultimately for me, making the best version of the film was the most important. So I had lots of eyes on the film in the process, and even when it was hard to cut certain things, ultimately I could see that it was the best for the movie, and so it was quite easy, actually. Especially the closer we got to a final cut, it was like, where do we cut? What else do we need? Like, we needed to shorten it, so it was like, somebody tell me.
I feel like that's always the issue of, like, when someone says cut something, I'm like, no, that's the best part of the movie. But like, then you have someone else being like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
All right, so we have our leading ladies, Devin and Bridget. Do you guys just want to talk about your roles? Devin, you can start.
Sure. Yeah, I play Amber Evans, who is the woman who's struggling to figure out who she is and what she wants in her life in this film. And it was really fun to get to play with Bridget for like a year.
And Bridget?
Yes, we did play together, didn't we? I am Bridget, and I played Logan, a singer-songwriter / real estate broker who, made this lovely lady fall in love with her. And
yes, she did. Yes, she did.
And ultimately have to face each other's, insecurities and vulnerabilities, and blind spots.
And it was a happy ending, which I really appreciated, which we'll get into more. Amanda, how about you?
Hi, I'm Amanda. I wrote all of the music for the film, so I'm the songwriter.
That's it. I just wrote all the music for this entire film.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And Panita?
Hey, I was the producer on the film, so I dealt with a lot of just logistics in general, and keeping people fed so that they could do their work. And yeah, it was a really amazing experience to work on this film.
And off of that, and this is a question because I was reading, Isabel, your director's statement, just the behind the scenes of having a lot of women in those specific roles, and just how it seemed a fun atmosphere to work on. Can you both talk a little bit about that? And was your objective to have a substantial amount of women in the crew?
For me, it was just, it's a story about two women. So I think it was really important to have women on the crew, because, it's also told from like a female perspective, I think. So, like, to have that many women on the crew was really important to us and just really special. And I think it was really important in creating a space that was like safe, especially because we were such a small crew, and a space that our actresses and our crew members could feel like themselves in, if that makes sense.
For sure. And how, because you were just talking about, Bridget, you had said play with for a year. How long was production? When was production and how long was production?
Oh, you're asking me.
Anybody?
Oh, anyway, go for it. Go for it, Panita.
Okay, so basically this story took place like in the script it takes place like over a little over a year,
Mhm.
but in real life it took I think like 2 years to make because we wanted to see the passing of seasons.
Mhm.
So we shot like a week in the spring and then a week in the summer and then a week in the fall and then the week of the winter, and then there were like reshoots. So it was really like an interesting experience just because it felt like we were a family that were like coming back to like see each other.
Mhm.
And it was kind of like a reunion each time. And that was just I feel like it made everyone like bond so much, and it felt almost like we were going to summer camp at like Isabella's place, which is where we shot a big portion of the film also. So it was like we were going to see our mom or something. It was really, really cool.
I want to go on film summer camp. That sounds awesome. All right, so Isabel, this question's for you. And this was in your director's statement. You said, I did not set out to make a queer film. Walk With Me is a story about a woman finding love and connection in another person. Love is love, and the film portrays that in the simplest and most honest way. Can you talk about what you set out to make, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it feels like a tough question in a way, but I set out to tell a love story, really. It's really, I'm a big believer in love in my life, and the power of love, the transformative power of love. And I wanted to create something that spoke to that, and it just so happened to be a love story between two women.
And is that initially when you were writing it, was that the direction you were going to go in, or did that just happen organically?
The storyline between the two women.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the direction that I was going in from the very get-go. Yeah.
And so even with the opening scene, with the subtext about like the cream and the coffee, like we already can sense the tension between you and your husband. And I really liked setting up that way in the beginning of the film. I had another question for you. When Amber is sitting in the cafe, everyone is facing out. Usually people face out and look out, but she's facing towards the wall. Was that purposely, or is it for production purposes? Because it just made me feel for me, it was like she felt more isolated in that moment.
Yeah, everything was like super deliberately mapped out. I worked really closely with Yoda, our director of photography, and storyboarded everything. And in fact, like the beginning of the movie, she's always, when we could, she was always framed within something, like within a window, or she's always framed with an over the shoulder shot until the moment she says, I'm leaving you, to Ethan. And then through the film, we made a choice to deliberately like free her of being framed, in certain ways on camera. And also at the cafe, that was also a deliberate choice. Yeah.
That's awesome. Now I gotta go back and watch it for like a fourth time, and now I'm gonna feel like I'll see the framing and everything.
And we cut some scenes. There was another 1 or 2 scenes with Ethan at the beginning that really heightened the tension, and all her shots in the car were super deliberately like through the window. It was really fun to do, but it was too much.
So Logan and Amber, I'm still working on the hashtag a little bit of combining your names when I do the social posts. So talk me through it. I loved how, like, a lot of times stories will touch upon it and it's like this over dramatic, like, of her leaving her husband and then her falling in love with a woman. And I liked how it was done, and it wasn't necessarily tiptoed around. And I don't feel like, Amber obviously had some hesitations, but it wasn't, to me, over the top because she was following her heart. For the both of you, how did you feel the relationship and how it was portrayed through the film?
I'll go first. Lambert, I think, is maybe the only option, by the way. I was just like looking at the names and I was like, Ammo, Amgen.
That's probably what
Yeah. Lambert, I think is it. So good for you. Yeah, I think what's interesting is that like this script certainly could lend itself to really intense melodrama in a lot of ways, but it always felt real, and we approached it from a real place the whole time, with each other. Even the whole crew sort of was in the same place on that front, which was really nice. And I think for me, Amber was always, Logan just took her by surprise, but so would anybody if she was a woman or a man. It didn't really matter. It was just like this person who was so the opposite of Amber in so many ways, and was so open-hearted. You know, Amber had sort of, I felt like, when we meet her the first time, she's really guarded, and she really has this wall up, and she's learned that that's how she can protect herself and her daughter. And then she finds someone who shows her that you can protect and love in a totally different way. And I think that the hesitation, certainly she's questioning her identity and her sexual identity, but more than anything, I think she's questioning like whether she can open her heart and like learn to trust somebody and be vulnerable and exposed, which is just something that any person who really wants to learn what it feels like to be really in love has to come up against. That's what I think of.
Awesome.
Something that just from watching the movie again myself recently, and kind of over time, and my, reflecting my own journey of what it's like to fall in love with somebody. And I've definitely had relationships that were, completely toxic and insane. And then also, really tender. But I feel like when real love happens, it happens in a subtle kind of weaving of moments. And I feel like when I watched the film again recently, I really saw that. I saw the subtlety of the way that they fell for each other. And movies tend to, dramatize this fantasy love. And when you do get the fantasy love, it doesn't look like the fantasy. It feels like it fits into reality in a way that's just very human. It's just very human. And it's quiet. It's not always like, it's like, it's like this quiet, gentle discovery. So that's what I felt about it.
Would you guys say you're still together right now? If this was like, in fantasy world?
Oh yeah, I got her pregnant.
Oh, are we gonna make a sequel? Raising their kids? Yes.
I think that sounds perfect. I think that's exactly what's going on.
I think so too.
We're living in a van. Just touring around, we're van lifing it. I don't know.
Just like my real life too, right now. Crazy. Meta.
Amanda, talk me through the songwriting, and was it written first, and then do you go by the scenes, or do you and Isabel talk through where you want music, and how does it work?
Well, from the get-go, Isabel had kind of a vision, and she sent me the script early on. And so some of the songs had been percolating for a very long time, but the whole process, there was a lot of back and forth with Isabel, depending on what the movie needed. So at first, it was the songs that Logan sings in the film. So once I had kind of created a few of those songs, we honed in on specific scenes that needed them as well. And then kind of overarching themes throughout the movie that then I could record the soundtrack for. So yeah, there was tons of back and forth. It was actually so wonderful. I'm a natural collaborator. I often songwrite with someone. And so although Isabel wasn't officially my songwriting partner in this, I feel like it was so collaborative and back and forth a lot for the whole process. It was amazing.
Yeah, because I was noticing when I was rewatching it with some of the lyrics, and you had like when they were by the fire, you have like a song about safe place, and then after the breakup, nothing lasts forever, my broken heart. So was it kind of like really feeling the emotions and the tone with each scene, and then figuring out the lyrics that you felt like went with it?
I didn't write specifically for the scenes. I'm trying to think of, no, I think mostly I was moving off of clips that Isabel had sent me or the script to begin with. I really dove into Logan's character and into the whole story. And because Isabel was so open and facilitates such a creative process for everybody, I think, it was really easy to enter that world with everyone, even though I was up in Canada and everyone else was down in the States filming. You know, she really made me feel included. And I think that shows because should give me space and time to percolate. As soon as there was a scene that she could share with me or a performance or a moment that was inspiring her, she would send it my way. And I wouldn't write specifically for a scene, but I kind of just tasked myself with writing a huge collection of songs, and most of them made it into the movie. And there were a few last minute additions where I thought I was done writing for the film, and then something came out, and that last song in that final scene of the movie is one of those pieces that I kind of at the very last minute I created this song, and it clearly was like the momentum of my emotional journey. Just I was spitting out songs that fit with the story at the end, and yeah, it was really fun.
It's so cool. I think this is the first time I ever got to have a Q&A with a songwriter for a film. Like I'm always super into soundtracks, so it's really cool to hear kind of the inspiration for stuff. And so Bridget, did you sing everything?
Yes, everything that I sing in the movie that you see me singing live, and there are some that I'm singing on the soundtrack as well, and then the rest are Amanda too.
Do you feel pressure as far as being able to sing the songs that Amanda writes for the film, or is it something that you felt just came naturally as your character?
Oh, I loved it. It was probably like one of my favorite things, because you, as being a multidisciplinary artist, to be able to combine the things that you love in one thing is just, it's such a joy. And the songs were so beautiful, and they're in a different style than I write in, and I had to learn different voicings for the guitar, so it just kind of was challenging and fun to have such a specific character trait be so influential into the whole story, and how much the music was so much a part of Logan, and how music is such a part of me. It allowed me to kind of infuse these different parts of myself. And so it was a really fun experience to do that.
So speaking of music, I noticed that the one scene that I feel like usually has music is the first time that they have sex, but there was no music. What was your thought process behind that, Isabel? Yep.
I wanted that scene to feel as real as possible. Like that's really the bottom line. And even the way we blocked that scene, Devin and Bridget came over to my place, which is like on my bed right here where we shot a lot of the movie. And just figuring out the blocking for the film was really them like walking through the space. Like I was like, the scene starts off in the living room, you make your way to the bed. And so they organically walked through like, oh, what would I do next? And it was funny and awkward and like, oh, well, I might do this. And every once in a while I'd be like, well, you might want to feel this part of her body, or, you know, but that was really that scene. And the choice to do like a long take. There's one edit in it, you know, I was hoping to not cut away, but it there was a shot that, or like holding on Devin in the bed felt very much like a male gaze.
Mhm.
So I cut away, but the intention was to just have one long take and it'd be real and lifelike, and everyone could like sit with that moment of vulnerability and excitement and intimacy.
Yeah, I think that came through specifically without having the music, because I was obviously really looking for details as far as for the Q&A, and then I was like, and it just made you so more aware of them as a couple in this first time happening, which is really big for both of them, particularly for the character of Amber. So I have a question for Bridget / Logan. What's more of the backstory as far as maybe what Isabel told you with your relationship with your mother?
The backstory was that she pretty much didn't accept who she was when she was younger. And if I remember correctly, it's been a while. I tend to, yes, that is for me as an actress, I don't really hold on to backstories of, the basic understanding, but a lot of it is very, I don't like to say the word method, but I really bring my own personal experience to everything that I do. So even though we see her for a moment, I use my own journey with, a history of my own. So that's what I remember. Maybe Isabel can lend to that, but
I was just curious as far as how it affected you as the character and also just as acting as Logan. With that, then if your mother didn't really accept who you were, one of the lines I really like is you say, "What's a role? It's not a role. It's just us," which I think is really powerful, especially for me who's been in a relationship when someone wasn't fully out, and how much that can affect a relationship without even realizing it. And I just loved not only the way you delivered it, but the simplicity of the line, but how many layers it holds. As for you as the character of Logan, how did you feel as far as keep wanting to push her and push her and push her until finally, eventually you kind of pulled away? But how like that line in particular, how did that make you feel?
I really love, actually, I love that moment too. We workshopped that scene a little bit together. I mean, that was the beautiful thing about working with Isabel, that she really wanted us to feel like our responses were authentic. And if something didn't feel right, we worked through it. We found, and I feel like that scene is one of the ones that we worked through, and we found some real truth in there. And just moving past the identity part of it, the gender identity of like woman, man, whatever. But this, and even in my own experience that I can lend to it, is that feeling of having a truth with someone that personally and intimately, that can't live outside in the world. And it feels like a complete denial of truth to not, and regardless of who it is and what it is, like what the, what the person is, identity wise, it is about finding, about having that respect for that intimacy that you always have, that you take that with you. And that's not something that and that was a very real moment for me.
And for you, Devin, how do you feel like, because when you guys broke up, I was like, no, I was like, I feel like I was literally like, how much longer is this movie? Like there has to be more coming that they get back together. But obviously you as a character had to do a lot of self-reflection and like realization of what you wanted. So how do you feel like Amber evolved to eventually showing up at, Logan's show and being like, I'm ready and I'm here?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think sometimes I feel like you kind of have to learn what you have to lose before it really sinks in a sense. But I really don't think that it was like, I feel like this breakup was beyond heartbreaking because it was like she was beginning to open up and beginning to feel this. And I think what is really beautiful about that scene, and really beautiful in general about the film, is that it touches on this truth of that the idea, like, if you love something, let it go, kind of that sort of trite idea, but in a lot of ways what Logan does there is the best thing, because there's a line in that breakup scene where Amber says, I need you, I don't want to do this alone. And I feel like it wasn't until she realized that she doesn't need Logan in order to step into this life that she was able to fully show up for Logan and herself and her daughter and her family in a lot of ways. And I think she needed to stand on her own 2 feet and realize that, you know, she also says at the end, I was looking for approval from everyone else, but what I really needed was my own. And somehow Logan leaving her and Amber realizing, like, oh, I'm not going to fall back to who I was. I'm going to keep moving forward and keep finding love and keep hurting and feeling all of these big feelings, allowed her to evolve enough to realize that this big, like, she's big enough for this big love with Logan, I think, in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Which is so beautiful. So beautiful. Isabel, something else I appreciated, because a lot of times characters get pigeonholed in, well, now is Amber a lesbian, but also you have, like, she has a line where she says she's still attracted to men, and then she you know, has the guy at the art gallery ask for her number. I just like how it wasn't just like one way or another, she is who she is. Was that something that was important to you as the character of Amber?
Yeah, I mean, I think she's just evolving as a person and realizing and opening up her horizons, and that's really it. It was just that simple. You know, it's that love is love, and she loved Logan and is just open to love, you know, to experiences.
With how long that you guys took to film this, obviously you guys were doing it through the seasons, with what you set out to make and what ended up on the screen, is it like what you wanted, or did it surpass it?
I think it's everything and more. I think the film is so beautiful. I'm so proud of it. And the more is all the relationships, the experience of making it was so incredible. You know, the bonding, the vulnerability, the exchange with everybody, with the cast, with the crew, with Amanda. Like, it was just such a beautiful experience, and we were all like working towards this one goal, and it was in support and with so much respect and integrity, and yeah, and I think you feel it in the film. But I just always had this end goal of making this movie, and here it is. But the plus is all these beautiful relationships and memories that will just forever be a part of it, you know.
Well, now you're making a sequel, so like so how has it been received? I know you've played at a few festivals, so how's the movie been received by people? Obviously the Wicked Queer team loves it, so
yeah, I mean, you know, I think that that it's a very removed experience being online. Whereas, you know, if we were in a theater, then you hear and feel everybody around you, and so that's just been an interesting, different experience. And we've only screened so far at CineQuest.
I should have recorded my gasp when they broke up. and then my relief when they got back together.
I mean, we had a private screening in the fall before COVID, and the energy in the room was really just beautiful. So I mean, those are all people we knew, but I would hope that that's the reception that it's getting.
So Amanda, after seeing, you know, you obviously saw clips and then you wrote it, and now really your music is another character within the film. How did you feel, you know, hearing and seeing Bridget play the songs that you wrote that were just like a key part of the film?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it was super emotional for me to see Bridget perform these songs. I was blown away. And even when we first met, I was just so inspired meeting Bridget. She just seemed like she was Logan. And I had lived with the script for a couple of years before meeting who Isabel had cast. And I couldn't believe it. I had written songs that weren't for my own voice. They were in my style, but they were for a different voice. And then I heard Bridget sing, and that was the voice. And it was like, for me, super magical and emotional and a complete honor. And I don't really have any words. Like, it's a very overwhelming feeling to see your art expressed so beautifully through someone else's art, you know? It's amazing.
That's like such a good quote right there. It really is.
I love you.
I love you too.
See, everybody loves each other, so I just think you should keep making films about Amber and Logan if I haven't said it already. How did the casting process go? How did you guys get cast as your characters?
I actually worked with Isabel in a sketch comedy series called Smile for the Camera that I auditioned for and got in, and we had been working together for like a couple of years, I think, before this. And something I like to do as well is I'm like a collaborative worker as well, and I help people develop scripts and this and that. And I remember Isabel sent me a rough copy of the script at that point and just said, you know, what do you think? And we spent some time talking about it. And she, 1 year for like my birthday, she got me a little book and like wrote inside, you know, like if I ever get this film backed, you know, I'd love for you to play Amber. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. Like, it meant a lot, but I was like, okay, you know, and then it happened. And she immediately called. I mean, it was quite an honor to be offered it. And also just like to know that someone is willing to, I mean, we had done comedy, like we had been doing just like nothing but comedy. And then here's this show and she trusted me with it, or this film, she trusted me with it and kept to her word, which was pretty special. Yeah.
And what about you, Bridget?
I auditioned, you know, like a good old actress that I am. Got the call, showed up, did some lines, put my heart in it, and here we are.
Isabel, did you know immediately when Bridget came in?
You know, in the casting process, it's all like online, or like getting everyone's reels is all online. And so I had been looking at reels for multiple characters. So I'd been watching hundreds and hundreds of reels at that point. And so then I got to the point of Logan, and there was hundreds of submissions, and hers was like the 4th or 5th reel that I watched. And I was just like, oh my God, I found Logan. And I didn't watch anyone else's reel. I Googled her, and there's like a million Bridget Barkan songs and performances, and I just watched a lot of her things, and she's the only person I saw, and she was amazing and remarkable, and that was it. She's the only person I auditioned for that character.
That's amazing. And did you guys, they didn't even audition together? You were like, I'm gonna have both of them, and then?
No, she came in once and read with a reader, and then Devin came in the second day or third day of casting, I guess, once I had made and narrowed down choices with all the characters. So she read with everybody. And yeah, and I guess that day only Ethan was the one where there were multiple guys that came in, and then it was just clear that it was Daniel was the choice, but everyone else I had pretty much chosen, but it was just like a chemistry read at that point, you know.
I just feel like this movie was like fate, you guys. Just like 4th reel, I'm gonna give it to you, and then like you get an amazing songwriter. do you guys want to talk about if you have anything else coming up going on next that you guys want to talk about and promote?
Amanda's releasing the songs one by one. Amanda, you want to speak to that?
Sure. Yeah. We've released one of the songs from the soundtrack so far, or two actually of the songs from the soundtrack so far. And in the next few months, and as time passes, I'll be releasing one more every couple of months or so. And yeah, we're kind of doing a slow rollout so that people get a sense of each song on its own. But,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Mhm.
Cool. Bridget, what about you?
I'm currently working on being sane
That's very important. That's very important.
and healthy and
Yep.
happy in this crazy world that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
But I am, I'm also a teaching artist, and I work as a songwriter, and I'm really excited that I've been working with Carnegie Hall for the last 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I do something called the Lullaby Project, where I write with mothers and we write songs for their children. And I've just been really focused on being in service and writing songs with moms.
That's really cool.
Really beautiful.
It's beautiful. What about you, Devin?
Yeah, I'm also on that sane train. That's like been my number one focus. I left New York when the pandemic hit and ended up coming upstate and working at a farm stand. And so that's what I was doing. And I started a blog about it. I've been doing a lot of writing. I have a Patreon. If anyone wants to follow it, Devin Duncannon, I think is how you would find me on the Patreon. And so I've been doing that, and I've been mostly focusing on writing, which is something else I really love to do, and helping some friends develop some scripts and sort of see what the future holds, and just, playing my guitar and hanging out and trying to, breathe every day. That's what I've been doing.
Are you guys gonna do a duet? Is that what I'm hearing?
Maybe, yeah. I'm a singer too, and it was funny because like in us shooting this, Amber's not a singer. And the few times that she's like supposed to sing in the film, I was like, Amber's not a good singer. Like I know Amber's not a good singer. I can feel it in my gut, and so it was really fun to sort of play this like shy singer, which is something I'm not. I'm a musical theater major, so like for me being like, oh, I don't know how to do this was like really challenging, but it was so fun. Yeah, maybe someday. Bridget, we did work together once on a cabaret that this cabaret, this political soiree cabaret. Yeah, before we did the movie, we just realized this while we were shooting the movie, but my friends and I used to run a cabaret called Cabinet 27, and she was one of our guest artists once, and I like knew I recognized her, and then we were like halfway through shooting, and I was like, oh my God, Bridget, I remember your song, you were so great.
The milk, the mush of New York City artist culture. Just, we all just get in the stew and dance around, find each other.
And Isabel, besides writing the sequel, what else you got going on?
Well, I've written a new screenplay, and it's like a supernatural drama, basically. It's super heartfelt, and I hope to be making that next year at some point. Awesome. So yeah, and then life is happening.
Cool. I really appreciate you guys coming out for this Q&A. It was great. I'm excited to rewatch the film again now, learning all some of the stuff I didn't know beforehand. And you guys can watch this film through April 18th. So thank you guys so much. This was lovely.
Thank you.